Hi everybody, it's Annette from the Art of Intuition, and today we are going to talk about karma and the phrase an eye for an eye, which is a phrase that came up. I actually have not watched House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones prequel, which I do kind of want to watch. A lot of times I get a lot of ideas for videos watching a lot of that type of content, different types of content to look at things in different ways, because when we start operating from higher states of consciousness, everything we watch through that lens. So a lot of this stuff kind of hits you on a different level. I remember the first time I watched Game of Thrones, I was binging it because I hadn't watched it, and I was in a consciousness where I was absorbing so much that you get in this spot where you start to understand and see how much you absorb by what's around you. The consciousness of what's around you, how much that affects your field. And you don't really see that. You don't normally understand that or see that. So when you're in your human consciousness, when you get beyond your human consciousness, when you start anchoring your higher consciousness aspects, you start seeing how this stuff affects you. Because you're kind of in that phase where you're just seeing how much you're absorbing in. And your field can't sort of deflect it yet. And I don't know, deflect it kind of feels like it's defensive, but it starts not affecting you after a while. You can kind of watch it and kind of see through it, and it doesn't bother you after a while. But there will be different parts of your journey where you can't be around any of that stuff, any type of violent stuff, or whatever it is, because it will bother you, and it will kind of imprint in a sense on your field. So there's some stuff that there's a part of the process for me where I had to be very careful how much I watched, because it bothered me, and it would kind of stick with you, and you could see how your field does kind of take that stuff in. And it also just shows you how your field is affected by everything in your field. But you do get just different parts of your process where your field's not as affected, and different ways to kind of clear your field out when you need to, and when you can have other people in, because there's a bigger purpose to having other people in than having your field clear all the time. So, sorry, there's a bug flying around. Okay, but that was kind of a long way to go back to karma. So, karma, an eye for an eye. The eye for an eye phrase is a very human consciousness phrase, right? An eye for an eye, which means, what you do to me, what is done to me, you will do back, So if we go with that phrase, an eye for an eye, in our human consciousness, and we look at that phrase from higher consciousness, we're going to get into basically karma, right? Which is a word a lot of humans throw around. When you're in your human conscious, we throw around good karma, bad karma, not understanding at the time that everything we create as humans is technically bad karma, which is going to be shocking. It's going to feel shocking when someone listens to that and thinks, oh no, I did that and that was a good deed and that's good karma. Because in a way, you kind of play in karma when you're human, and then when you get to different aspects, different spaces in your consciousness, higher spaces in your consciousness, you don't really play in karma anymore, because you don't play in the kind of karma that is going to cause, and I don't want to use the word negative because it's such a polar word, but karma is always going to be labeled good and bad, but you don't play in anything that's going to come back around that is not of the highest, of the purest. Let's use that word. You're not complaining about that stuff anymore, so you don't create it anymore. But we have to learn how we create it. So if we do use the phrase an eye for an eye, everything we create as humans is technically karma, and you are going to have to clear it. There's really no way around that. A lot of people think there's these magical ways around it, how you can get rid of your karma. And you don't have to, and you're not only clearing your karma from this reality, you're going to be clearing your karma from every reality. And you're going to be clearing different aspects of your karma. You've got galactic karma, you've got human karma, you've got Atlantean karma, you've got karma from everywhere, and every aspect of you that ever was. And we clear all that in one existence. When you're in your ascension process, you have the capability to clear it all, and that's what you're going to, in a way, sort of be asked to do. You're clearing all that karma in your one shot. A lot of people say it's kind of your last shot. A lot of times when you're ascending your consciousness, it can be, you're going to have it go to, the two ways I've seen, it's either by the time you get kind of here, you kind of know it's going to be your last kind of human experience. If you're if you're looking at it from a soul consciousness experiment, if you're going to look from a galactic consciousness, you won't come back and do it again. You know, this is kind of the last one, and you're going to clear it all, ascend it all, and be done. Clear it all, bring it back inside, merge everything together, and then you won't do it again. But that would be also someone who's lived many existences and we're living them all simultaneously. Or you're going to be in the other camp where you just do a one-time walk-in, where I see a lot of people will talk about being one-time walk-ins, where they just kind of come in and they have to clear everything in one shot, and they can have very, very harsh experiences and very harsh awakening processes because they have so much to do in sort of a short time frame. Even though when they do come in, it does kind of open them up to all the other lifetimes they're living simultaneously. So it's not like it's just one of them. In a sense, they still have the multidimensionality of all of them. It's just their first kind of walk in a human consciousness. And it can also be very jarring for them. So a lot of people call them star seeds. You'll see that term. That's how I've kind of seen it used, as their star seeds. That's how they kind of come in. I never really resonated with that word, so I've kind of been here quite a few times, or I'm here quite a few times simultaneously, I should say. But you do kind of get the part where you're kind of at your end, and when you're starting to realigning and clearing your karma, what you don't realize is, and I was the same way, is everything you built as a human was karmic. Because I see that so many times. I see some people say that, like, oh, that's a karmic timeline, or oh, that's a karmic relationship. If you create it from a human consciousness, it's karmic. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to go, I wonder if it is. It is. Unless you create it from your purest space, which when you're in your human consciousness and making decisions from there, you don't have the capability to do that yet. We don't have the capability when we're in our human consciousness to act from that aspect. We're not consciously acting from that aspect. That's all really ascension is you're ascending your consciousness to higher aspects, and you're living from those aspects. That's what embodiment means. You're living from those aspects. You just don't see that aspect, and you're actually living from it. You know, once you kind of see the distortions in your reality, you have to fix them. You know, we can't sit there and brush them under the rug. We have to fix them. So we get into kind of feeling sort of bogged down by it all. But we also get the insight to see how everything we create affects the other thing. Because we're not in a linear reality. If you're trying to, I've used this example a lot of times, I'm trying to figure out another one. Like if you were trying to write you want to be in a movie. Let's do that. You want to be in a movie, or you're a painter. I'm going to use painter. I don't think I've used painter. You want to paint something, right? Now, from a human aspect, you would feel like you have to go to art school. And you still might feel drawn to go to art school. But when you're operating from higher aspects and you can see how realities get created, becoming a painter might have a totally different route than if you try to think about it and do a logical route with your human consciousness. It's going to be a different way to go because you can't see how the realities get created. That's how humans get sidetracked. You know, they try to go the linear way, and that's not how realities are created. They're not created a linear way. It's, you know, geometrics, it's different light codes, it's different things you do every day that are going to create that reality. That's when we get into the doing phase of creating something. You might feel like before you do that one thing you know you want to accomplish, maybe you have to go spend 6 months in the mountains or 7 months on the beach or whatever, which would seem like it has nothing to do with what you're trying to do, but it has everything to do with what you're trying to do. Because the consciousness you're trying to reach, you have to raise the body's vibration of that consciousness so you can then bring that in to fruition here, in a sense. You know, you can't anchor that reality in unless your body's in that higher, your body's vibrating at that higher rate. That's why it can take a while for these realities to come in, and we feel like all we do is spend years cleaning up old realities. And I know I have spent years cleaning up old realities. I mean, just all of them. And even the ones I created a couple of years ago, they're still karmic because I was still not 100% operating from a higher aspect. I was still in a karmic, still creating some karmic stuff, still entering into karmic stuff. Now, sometimes we'll do that consciously, knowing, yeah, I know this is karmic, but there's other things I'm doing here. You know, I have a role to play. I said I'd be here to do this role, be here to be the most conscious person in this reality, be here for this or be here for that. So sometimes there's a reason why we do it, We sit here and know that, like, there's a reason I'm here. I know it's karmic, but there's a higher purpose to it. So sometimes you'll see that there's a higher purpose to it. But look at every act you do every day, every thought you have every day. All that creates karma, and it's up to us. Once again, when we talk about ascension and consciousness, to be conscious of ourselves, to be responsible for ourselves, not be responsible for everybody else. And that's what humans want to do. We want to be responsible for everybody else. We have to be responsible for ourselves. We have to look at what we're doing, what we're not doing. You know, what do you see you could do and you're not doing? You know, are we walking by? Just a simple example. You know, are we walking by trash in the street when you could pick it up? I mean, that creates karma. Not picking it up creates karma too. You know, what are the things we could do every day that we don't do? And a lot of people think, oh, I can't really do anything, or I don't have anything to offer, because when we first start this journey, our human consciousness is always going to say, oh, you can't do that. You know, you can't do that. You know, because we're trying to do the big things. You know, I want to change, you know, I want to be doing this, or whatever you would see as a big thing, writing the book, doing a podcast, doing whatever. It doesn't matter what it is to you, but it's the little things that get you there. It's the little things that get all of us there. We can't start out with the big things. We don't have the capacity to anchor in those realities yet. We have to build them on the little realities. We have to build them on what we do every day, and not try to do, we want to jump to the ending. You know, look at how long it took. If you just go from a human consciousness of how long you train to do something, whether you talk about high school and college or whatever, and then entry-level jobs and then getting promoters, how long it took you to get to certain spaces in human consciousness, how many years that took. And it's going to, the male person's here, how long that's going to take. And the sun, we finally got some sun. We finally got some sun. How long that's going to take as we go forward. How long it's going to take to clear all that. So just keep all that in mind when you look at creating karma. And if you still have a story while you're doing something, if you feel obligated to do something, if you feel like you're being manipulated to do something, and we're allowing all that to take place, and those realities we have to align, and they are karmic. And until we stop trying to convince ourselves that we're not, or trying to align them from within, most of the time we have to step out of the reality to align it. In a sense, we have to get above it, and sometimes we can. Sometimes we can get to a higher consciousness and still be in it. For me, I normally have to kind of get out of it for a bit, and then look back on it and see if there's a chance to align it. Normally, I feel like it's gotten easier to just not worry about aligning the old ones. Align what you can, what feels like everybody wants to align, but a lot of times it's easier sometimes to find new people instead of trying to align people who are not open to a reality being aligned to higher consciousness, and not open as a judgment to the other people in the realities, because we have to keep in mind everyone's where they're supposed to be. You know, everyone's exactly doing what they're supposed to do and where they're supposed to be. It's just not their time yet. And trying to interfere with something when it's not their time yet, it's almost like you're trying to rush a baby out, rush a birth for something. It's not their time yet. It's not going to be accepted well. You know, it's not going to do well. You know, it's not going to work. Everyone has their moment. And if it's not their moment, it's not their moment. We just don't like that answer. We want everyone to come with us. We don't want to have to, in a way, leave people behind. Even though we're technically not leaving people behind, we're letting them do their journey. So look at where you feel like you're leaving someone behind. Look at what you're putting up with, so you don't have to leave someone, what you're going to look at, leave someone behind. But we're really just giving them the soul respect to do their journey their way, and understanding they have higher versions of themselves. They have higher aspects. They have a path. It might not be our path, but we can create a lot, especially around people, money and people. But I see a lot more of it, for me personally, around people. You kind of get over the karmic money stuff after a while, because you just see how it comes back on you. But with people, we don't want to walk away. We want everyone to come with us. So, okay. Keep practicing the art of intuition.